Oh my god, hi! Thanks for tuning in. On my channel, I analyze song lyrics very in depth through the lens of literary analysis. Today we're doing the song "'Tis the Damn Season" by Taylor Swift. This video is low-key an accidental podcast. I wasn't planning on making this song a fully voiceover video, but I've been sick for the past few weeks, so this is kind of the easiest option for me. So I hope that's okay. I did try to find like cute and aesthetic images and videos for the backdrop of everything, so here we go. I will make sure to link my Taylor Swift analyses playlist below for you. It contains all of the Taylor Swift songs I've analyzed so far. We've done quite a few from Folklore and Evermore and her other albums as well. Feel free to request what artist and song I should analyze next. Before we begin, I do want to say that everything I discuss in this video is just my personal opinion. Music is very subjective and everyone's going to have their own take on it. I value words a lot, so I tend to concentrate on diction, which is word choice, and connotation, which can be thought of as the vibes or the emotions that the words elicit. Alright, let's get started. This song title is a little bit sassy, which I appreciate, as always, a little bit ironic, and the root of it, the foundation of it, is kind of sad. So this song title is a modification of a very popular saying, "'Tis the season." "'Tis the season" is meant to refer to the holiday season, the wintry season. You're supposed to be all jolly and everything is supposed to be fun. There's like snowmen and you're like roasting chestnuts. Has anyone ever actually done that before? I haven't, but like I have a roasted chestnut candle and it smells very good. So yeah. The phrase "'tis the season" actually became popular due to the Christmas carol "Deck the Halls." I didn't know that, but I know that now. And you know that too. Isn't this exciting? However, the protagonist of this song, protagonist means the main character, has actually altered this very popular saying. The definition of damn that I will be using for the purposes of this song is the first one stated here. It says it is used to show that you are angry or annoyed at a person, thing, or situation. I definitely think there's a pressure during the holiday season to be very jolly and joyful and to just be very happy. I think being bummed out during the holiday season is much more common than we think, but the fact that the protagonist inserted the word damn here definitely shows us that they're not having a jolly holiday season. The addition of the word damn connotes a feeling of annoyance a little bit on part of the protagonist. I definitely envision anyone saying "'tis the damn season" as kind of rolling their eyes a little bit, maybe sighing beforehand. There is a great bit of irony as well because, again, the holiday season is supposed to be positive, but here it's not. You know, irony and mild sassiness aside, this song title shows us that the protagonist is in a place of hurt and frustration. The first two lyrics of verse 1 give us some context about where the protagonist is at emotionally. It says, "If I wanted to know who you were hanging with while I was gone, I would have asked you." The plot of this song, in my opinion, is that this protagonist, who lives in LA, as we'll find out in a few verses, is going back home for the holiday season. And while they're back in their hometown, they run into an ex-love, realize that they miss them, and feel some regret and nostalgia. Now, I do want your opinion on what I'm about to say. I view the protagonist of this song as Dorothea from Taylor's song called Dorothea. And I view the song Dorothea as being from the point of view of the ex-love that this protagonist is singing about. I definitely think that these two songs go together, especially because in both songs, the protagonists of each song refer to their love as a soul. For example, in this song in the bridge, it says, "I wonder about the only soul." So I personally do think that this song and Dorothea are about the same situation. They're just from different perspectives. So this song definitely has an undercurrent of nostalgia. It also has a tinge of regret. In the first two lines, she's pretty much saying, "Hey, I didn't ask. right? When someone doesn't care, they're going to be neutral and they're going to be unbothered. The fact that the protagonist is feeling like this really indicates that she was emotionally hurt a little bit to know about her ex's love life. One thing I want to say about this song is how important setting is. I've talked about the importance of setting in a lot of my videos, most recently in my analysis of the song Scott Street by Phoebe Bridgers, but also in the song Cornelia Street by Taylor Swift, and the song Arcadia by Lana Del Rey, and also Blue Banisters by Lana Del Rey. To me, it's really important that the protagonist no longer lives in her hometown, because when you live somewhere for a long time, you can keep changing how you define that place, right? But if you leave for a while and come back, even though time has passed, even though you've changed, and even though everyone else in that town has changed, you are still defining the place as it was when you left, no matter how long ago it was. Even if you left your hometown like 10 years ago and you haven't visited in 10 years, when you go back, you're viewing that setting as it was 10 years ago, and you're viewing the people there as they were 10 years ago. This is similar to Blue Banisters by Lana Del Rey. In that song, I talked about how that protagonist had perhaps mystified Oklahoma because that's where their relationship took place, and they don't live in Oklahoma, they live in California. So that's why in that song, Oklahoma is given such significance because it's mystified, it's not real. It's in your memories and it's put on a really weird, sad, nostalgic pedestal. I talk about nostalgia on this channel and I talked about it a lot in my Gold Rush analysis, how it's really, really dangerous because it has a rose-colored lens associated with it. In this song in particular, I do think there's a lot of nostalgia going on, but I also think that the protagonist is comparing her life in LA to what she had here, and she's trying to figure out what's fake and what's real. So while I do think there is a rose-colored lens present, I don't think that's the overarching theme. I would be interested to hear your take on this though, so make sure to comment it down below. It's the kind of cold, fogs up windshield glass, but I felt it when I passed you. I think that the protagonist finding out that her ex-love is hanging out with someone else is kicking up some memories and some dormant emotions. These emotions are making her feel emotionally cold, right? And her emotional coldness, metaphorically, is creating a visible effect. It's fogging up windshield glass. So this coldness she's feeling, this emptiness, this hollow, dull emptiness, this emotional pain is causing something visible to manifest, right? And again, this is metaphorical. And she felt it when she passed her ex-love. That's really significant. That's very beautiful. It's, of course, very sad, but I love the way that Taylor is saying this. Just by passing by this person, she is experiencing a shift in her emotional state just by being in proximity to them, right? Some people that you have a really strong connection to, just being close by to them, you really can feel the subtle nuances of their energy, of their vibe. I think that's what's happening here. There's an ache in you put there by the ache in me. When you look up the word ache, it's defined as a prolonged, dull pain. It's like a hollow pain. It's an empty pain. You can't really do anything to make it feel better. The protagonist is sensing a sort of aching pain emotionally in her ex-love, and she recognizes that the reason this pain exists for them is because of her. She hurt them, and she's able to sense that hurt. Sometimes when you experience a lot of pain, whether it be from a romantic relationship or from any situation in your life, it can permanently change you. It can turn into a chronic sort of emotional pain. It can just shift your energy as a person permanently, for better or for worse, right? I think that's kind of what's being referred to here. And that really indicates to me that whatever this protagonist and her ex-love had was something that was very real and very deep. And maybe they didn't even date officially. Maybe they were just friends and they just had feelings for one another. I don't really know the exact context, but whatever was going on, it was very real. And the effects are still present, even though time has passed. I feel like their sort of connection is the type where you don't have to say anything to one another. You already know what the other person is thinking and what the other person is feeling. But if it's all the same to you, it's the same to me. The protagonist is pretty much saying that she's not going to bring it up. She's not going to be the one to start a conversation about these feelings she's having. She's keeping the emotions internal. She's not allowing for those emotions to be expressed in the external world through her words. So we could call it even. You could call me babe for the weekend. When she says, so we could call it even, this suggests that there is something to settle, right? There's an unbalance of some sort. This to me suggests that perhaps the protagonist is the one that broke this ex-love's heart. Maybe by leaving the hometown, maybe she wanted to follow her dreams instead of staying here and being with them. Again, we don't really know the exact details, but I think she's the one who broke it off. I also think this is true because of verse 1, where it says that the protagonist is the one who created the pain by putting the ache in them. You could call me babe for the weekend. So we know the protagonist is only here for a temporary amount of time, and she's pretty much saying, hey, let's just be together, enjoy each other's company just for the weekend. You know, I'll be your babe for the weekend. It's fine. From verse 1, I really get the sense that there's a lot of emotion present here for the protagonist, and I understand why she's saying this, but this is also going to be so painful. It's going to be so painful to like dip your toes back into being with that person, knowing that it's only going to be for a weekend. You know how long it's going to take you to get over that? I feel like it would take her months to get over it, honestly. And I do want to say that I don't know if the protagonist is saying these things out loud, if she's expressing this out loud to her love. Maybe it's all in her mind of something she wants to say but doesn't allow herself to say it. For me, I think I'm more partial towards the interpretation that this is all just going on in her head and she's not letting the other person know. I feel like this is perhaps like a stream of consciousness sort of thing that was catalyzed by the protagonist finding out that her ex was seeing other people. Once she found that out, she started to think all of these things and feel all of these things. That's how I am interpreting it, and it makes it even more heartbreaking because it's all going on in her mind and no one else knows, right? Like the other person, the ex, can't validate her feelings because it's all in her mind. I really want to know if you guys view this as like an open dialogue or as this just going on in the protagonist's head. 'Tis the damn season. Again, it's kind of ironic. She would roll her eyes. 'Tis the damn season is a kind of painful lyric here. The protagonist is in a lot of emotional pain. Write this down is such an interesting lyric. It's kind of like the protagonist is saying, don't forget what I'm about to tell you, but it's also really indicating that the protagonist is serious about this. Because realistically, her ex doesn't have to write down that the protagonist is staying with her parents because, like, you would just know that. You wouldn't need to post it for that, right? So the function of that lyric is to say that I'm serious. I'm not like messing around. And the road not taken looks real good now. Road not taken could be a reference to a poem by Robert Frost, which is literally called The Road Not Taken. I will put a link to the poem in the description box below if you would like to look over it and read it. Maybe the protagonist had to make a very difficult decision to stay in the hometown and therefore stay with her love, or to leave for LA and to follow her dreams. And she chose her dreams. But right now, when she's back home, she's saying that the other option looks real good right now. And I would argue it's because she's in a vulnerable state. She just found out that her ex is seeing other people. And also, later on in the bridge, we're going to find out that, you know, she has fake friends in LA. Things may be difficult for her there. So feeling the feelings she has from her LA life and coming here and finding out that her ex-love is seeing other people puts her in a very emotionally vulnerable place. So she's saying that, you know, the road not taken looks like a really good option right now. Maybe we should venture down this path together. I don't think that this is coming from her baseline self. Again, she's kind of in a very nostalgic, painful state, kind of like an altered state that I described in Cruel Summer and also in Scott Street. But I feel like if she was in a more stable emotional state, perhaps she wouldn't be saying this. And it always leads to you and my hometown. It's interesting. She's saying that the road not taken always leads to, her ex-love and her hometown. She's not saying that all roads lead to them, right? There's a saying, all roads lead to you, which means that no matter what they do, they always go back to that person or to that place. But here, it's just the alternate road. It's the road that they didn't try. It's the road that they didn't go down. I find that to be really interesting. It really makes me wonder whether the protagonist truly feels like she missed out on being with the one, or is she missing feelings of familiarity? Is she missing feelings of home? Is she missing someone being genuine and authentic with her? Which sounds like that's something she is missing in LA. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? I'm not saying the protagonist doesn't have feelings for this other person. I really think they do, and I really think they had something very special and very real. But when you're in these sorts of situations where there's nostalgia, and when you're already in an emotionally vulnerable state, it's very difficult to try to differentiate between the person and the feelings the person elicits for you. I wonder if her life in LA was going better, and if her ex wasn't dating anyone else, if she would be feeling the same thing. These are just thoughts that I'm having about this and things that I'm wondering about. I don't have like a legit answer, right? We don't know. I would be interested to hear your thoughts as always. I think that if the only reason they broke up was because the protagonist was moving, then I think maybe they could be like soulmates. But if there were other reasons they broke up, like maybe they didn't fit together in a certain way, then I think that maybe they're not meant to be together forever. And they can still be soulmates, but just platonic soulmates. I want to go on a further tangent for a second. I love Gilmore Girls a lot. I'm obviously hashtag Team Jess, but also I don't really even like Rory with Jess, especially after the revival, because they literally ruined her character. But I want to say that there is an edit of Rory and Jess with the lyrics to this song, and the first time I saw it, I literally cried. I think it fits their relationship really well. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that linked below for you, because if you are Team Jess, I feel like you're going to enjoy that a lot. I parked my car right between the Methodist and the school that used to be ours. I get so emotional when I hear about specific details, and I've talked about this before in my videos about how specificity brings forth intimacy and relatability in song lyrics and just in writing in general. You feel closer to the song and closer to the songwriter because you are given specific details about their life. In this case, their fictional life, right? And I love how Taylor always has such beautiful and intentional imagery in her songs, but it's not direct imagery, but it always creates imagery in your mind. I'm literally visualizing the protagonist parking her car between the Methodist church and her school. I love that detail because it makes it seem like it's a movie. This also kind of brings forth a little bit of transportation symbolism. And listen, this transportation symbolism here with a car is like me being very, very overly analytical, but I wanted to point it out because later in this song, we have the mention of mud on truck tires. You can kind of make an argument out of that, in my opinion. Do I think it's like super, super significant? I don't know, but it did kind of pique my interest, so I just want to bring it up to you. Transportation imagery is very important. For example, in the song Champagne Problems, I talked about train symbolism because we have that train lyric in the first verse. When we have transportation, like in literature, it can be significant because it's taking you from one place to another, geographically, but also internally, in your emotions, in your thought processes. When you drive somewhere or take a train, you could be entering a new era of your life and departing from an older era of your life. So that's a general way to think about transportation symbolism. The fact that she's parking her car in a place that is very nostalgic. I mean, the school is super, super nostalgic, right? Because that's her adolescence. It's kind of like her life journey has brought her here to make a pit stop for her to understand something important. This makes the fact that the protagonist is feeling these things and thinking these things more significant. It makes it more fateful and not random. So that's a way to think about it if you'd like. When she says the school that used to be ours, that's so beautiful and so sad because she is explicitly acknowledging that the school is no longer theirs. This really acknowledges the passage of time. It's like a wistful sort of thing when you explicitly call out that a certain time period in your life has passed. The holidays linger like bad perfume. Perfume is very interesting. Taylor used perfume in her song Illicit Affairs, which I analyzed. We also had mention of perfume in the song The Louvre by Lorde, and it was used in such a cool way. I will make sure to link everything down below if you want to watch. Perfume is a temporary smell. Wherever you spray it, it's going to diffuse outwards, and the smell is going to take up the whole entire space you're in. Usually, perfume is going to create a beautiful scent, right? It's supposed to enhance and elevate. However, here, the qualifier, the word bad, is used to describe the perfume. So this thing that's supposed to be positive, that's supposed to enhance your vibe, is actually doing the opposite. It's a very heavy perfume. It's not going away. You've metaphorically opened up all the windows and turned on the fan, but the perfume is still lingering. It's like she's trapped in this holiday spirit that is making her feel worse. You can run, but only so far. This really brings forth feelings of entrapment. I escaped it too. Remember how you watched me leave. The lyric, remember how you watched me leave, really messes with me. I think it's so beautiful and I love that it's in this song. It really makes you envision the ex like literally standing there watching the protagonist drive off. It makes it so much more dramatic and so much more significant. This is why I love Taylor's writing so much because everything is so intentional. It's making you view things and feel things to a greater depth. You know what I mean? When you experience something, you feel it, but when you retell it, it's very difficult to make the other person feel what you felt, right? And it's frustrating because you want to be able to express the effect it had on you and express the significance of it. And I think Taylor always does that. She can always tell you what was important and what made, the protagonist feel something. And she does that by just adding an extra lyric. Remember how you watched me leave. She is bringing in another vantage point to the situation. She's making us view the protagonist leaving through the ex-love's eyes. And now we're kind of put in the ex's shoes and, oh my God, what did this ex feel? They had to watch her leave. Oh my goodness, that must have been so painful, right? So Taylor is making us empathize with two different people right now. We're feeling the emotions of two different people. It's like, that's why we're all so emo when we listen to Taylor Swift, because she's such a good songwriter and details matter, right? Specificity brings forth intimacy and relatability. I always say this and I really mean it. This also shows us that the protagonist is able to put herself in her ex's shoes. The fact that she's saying this is her acknowledging the fact that she hurt them. When she says she escaped it, I think she means she escaped the hometown and all of the holidays every year. I think that's just more of a general sort of statement. But if it's okay with you, it's okay with me. That last lyric is a lyric of self-preservation, in my opinion. It kind of cuts off the emotion. If it's okay with you, it's okay with me. She's not allowing the emotions to proceed further. And again, I think that's intentional because it's easier to cut it off and not feel it that deeply, right? The first 5 lines of the second chorus are repeated from the first chorus. So we're going to concentrate on the new lyrics. From the phrase time flies, I get the sense that the protagonist is reminiscing and thinking about the past and where they are right now. Messy as the mud on your truck tires. I love this line so much. There's a few things that I want to point out and discuss. So the mud on the truck tires are being compared with the messiness of life. The protagonist is really in kind of like a state of flux. Nothing is super stable for her. In the bridge, we get more of a breakdown of what her life is like in LA, and it's not like 100% pleasant, right? I also want to talk about this image we have here of mud on truck tires, and I want to talk about its connotation. So when there's mud on tires, it's not a fun experience. Mud, if there's a lot of it on there, it can actually slow down the car from moving forward. And there's a lot of effort to get mud off of your tires, so that's time and effort you have to put in, and it's just not pleasant. Here I want to bring in the transportation symbolism that we had earlier in this song, and this is where we can kind of start to craft an argument about transportation symbolism being significant in this song. Tires are really important. They are necessary for a car to move. So if there's a lot of mud on tires, then it's going to be very difficult for the car to move. So if we look at that through the context of car symbolism, this car is moving very slowly or it's not moving at all. And these tires, these truck tires, belong to the ex-love. So these tires, this truck, this mode of transportation is in essence stuck in the hometown. So this to me reinforces the fact that the protagonist really has to be in the hometown right now. Perhaps she's here to clean up this mess. Once she cleans up this mess with her ex, maybe the metaphorical mud on the metaphorical truck tires will get washed off and she can move forward. And when I say clean up the mess, this could be internal work the protagonist is doing. Maybe she just needs to figure out where she stands and how she feels, figure out if she wants to really move on from her ex or to rekindle something legitimate. Or it could include a conversation with her ex, right? Maybe she needs closure, or maybe she needs to give the other person closure. Once this metaphorical mud on these metaphorical truck tires are cleaned, the protagonist can move forward emotionally. They can move forward in an internal way. So that's definitely a way to look at it if you want. I really do like that interpretation. I think it adds more depth to the song, and I just really enjoy thinking about it in that way. But you don't have to, right? The car symbolism in this song isn't as strong as maybe in other songs. I do think it's more significant in the song Champagne Problems because the protagonist didn't need to say train. Like the word train was kind of random. It didn't really match the plot of anything. But here, the use of the word car definitely just fits into the plot very well. So I don't know about the significance or the intentionality of the car symbolism here, but I just wanted to point it out. And I would love to know how you think about the car symbolism. Do you view it as just a plot detail, or do you actually view it as legit symbolism? Comment down below. Now I'm missing your smile. Hear me out. I get the sense that the protagonist is experiencing a moment of weakness here, and I'm not saying they don't legitimately miss the other person's smile. I think she really does. I think she really cares for the other person a lot, but she's feeling her feels, right? She's in her feels right now, and that's a vulnerable state to be in, which makes me think again, does she really truly love this person in a romantic sense? Does she love them in a platonic sense, or is she just feeling alone? I'm not sure. Could be a little bit of all of it, right? We don't really have an answer to that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of when I read through these lyrics. And the bridge really makes me think that perhaps she really misses a feeling of familiarity and a feeling of being seen and loved in a genuine way. I do think it's interesting that the protagonist is missing the other person's smile specifically. A smile is, a very positive image. It connotes happiness, of course. When you think of someone's smile, you're thinking of the other person being happy as well, and you're thinking about their eyes lighting up, and you're thinking about beautiful moments and fun moments you had together. So I think that's very beautiful. That's why I think that the love between them is real, because a smile is pure, right? She says, hear me out. We could just ride around. The use of the word just is significant to me. She's saying we could simply ride around, like there's no strings attached. This is not like anything dramatic or anything heavy. Let's just keep it light and fun. She's perhaps scared to introduce too much emotion and too much seriousness into this dynamic. And then the rest of this chorus consists of repeated lyrics. The second chorus, I think, builds on what's been happening throughout the song with the protagonist thinking about the past, thinking a little bit about the present, and just really allowing these hometown vibes to take over. Okay, now we're at the bridge. I love analyzing Taylor Swift bridges. They're so intentional. I always say that they're the thesis statement for her songs. So let's go ahead and dive in. Sleep in half the day, just for old time's sake. What I find interesting is that the tense here is present tense. Could be interpreted in a few different ways. In my opinion, the protagonist is thinking about what she wants to do. She wants to sleep in half the day just for old time's sake. To me, when I read it, it's like this idea is being projected outwards as like a possibility of something the protagonist wants to do, something the protagonist wants to happen. I do find the tense of that pretty interesting. She really does want to go back to that time period right now. just for old time's sake. I find that, you can never go back to the past. You can't recreate everything in the same way. Even if you try to, even if you get the same group of people together and you wear the same clothes and you go to the same location and you eat what you used to eat, it's still going to be different, right? Because time has passed and you're different and the vibe is just, it's not going to be the same. It can be good, but a different type of good. But I do find that when you do things you used to do in the past, it does bring forth a little bit, like a smidge of the same emotions you felt. If you are reminiscing about a time that you miss, doing these things, like sleeping in half the day like you used to, it can definitely make you feel kind of comforted because you get a little bit of that sense of familiarity with the past. I won't ask you to wait if you don't ask me to stay. So here I think the protagonist is making kind of like a promise to herself. She's kind of like holding herself back. And this is why, for me, I think she's been saying everything in this song to herself so far. She hasn't asked the ex any of this yet. This lyric in particular really does make me think that she's going over all of this in her head before she even allows herself to utter this out loud. She's making herself a promise. She's not going to ask for the other person to wait for her unless they show that they're interested, unless they kind of validate what she's feeling and ask her to stay. And if she doesn't get asked to stay, then she'll go back to LA. It says, "So I'll go back to LA and the so-called friends who write books about me if I ever make it." Here is where we get a little bit of context about what her life is like in LA. She has so-called friends. She doesn't have any real genuine friends. She has people that will sell her out. There's no trust, there's no honesty, there's no loyalty. There's just people, potentially just social climbing, waiting for a way to benefit off of the other person. That's the vibe I get of her so-called friends in LA. The next lyric here is very important in my opinion. It says, "And wonder about the only soul who can tell which smiles I'm faking." So if the protagonist does not get asked to stay, they'll go back to LA to their so-called friends and they're going to think about this soul, referring to her ex-love. The diction here, the use of the word soul to me is very important because this kind of supports what I said earlier about this song and Dorothea being about the same couple, just from different perspectives. So in the song Dorothea, there's a lyric that says, "And damn Dorothea, they all want to be ya, but are you still the same soul I met under the bleachers?" It's interesting they both refer to each other as like a soul, right? I view Dorothea as being from the perspective of the ex-love, and I view the protagonist in this song as literally being Dorothea. Sometimes people have pet names, they refer to each other as love or dear or babe. For me, I don't necessarily think the word soul was a pet name for them. I think that they both view each other as their soulmate. Whether the other person is aware of it or not, they view each other as soulmates. So that's why when they speak about one another, when they think about one another in these songs, they refer to the other person as a soul. I personally do believe that you can be romantically involved with someone and then later realize that you are meant to just be platonic friends. And in those dynamics, it's possible to be soulmates. So in the context of this song specifically, I do think the protagonist is thinking about being with the ex in a romantic way. However, I'm thinking more about like the long-term result of this. Are they like destined to be romantic soulmates or are they destined to be platonic soulmates? And the reason I'm using the word soulmates is because they refer to one another as a soul in this song and in Dorothea, and because we're told that they understand each other to a great depth. The protagonist really does have awareness that this ex-love, this potential soulmate, loves them for real. The love and care they have for one another is legitimate because they can tell which of her smiles are fake. They know her in a very intimate and deep way, and that's in stark contrast to her friends in LA, if you could even call them that. "And the heart I know I'm breaking is my own, to leave the warmest bed I've ever known." When I read through those two lines, that would definitely make me more inclined to believe this is a romantic soulmate scenario due to the use of the phrase warmest bed. She's realizing that when she leaves, she's going to break her own heart because she's kind of leaving the possibility of being with this person. She's going to leave the warmest bed she's ever known. When you think of warmth, you think of comfort, of familiarity. When you feel warm, you feel safe. So, literally when she was in bed with this person, it's going to be warm because you're next to another person. But this is more of a metaphorical warmth that I believe is being referred to here. This is the purest love she's experienced. This is like the truest thing she's ever felt. I think she's kind of thinking to herself, like, this is the last chance I have to try to make something happen out of this. We could call it even. It's so, okay, when you listen to this, it's like, after all of this, after that heartbreaking lyric about the warmest bed, we go back to this repeated lyric, and we could call it even. When you say we could call it even, it's kind of playful. It still has a tinge of sadness associated with it because, like I mentioned earlier, it shows us that there's like a score to settle or that, she hurt the other person. Taylor does this a lot, and I really think it's very beautiful. She always cuts emotions off in a way and brings it back to a less emotional lyric. We could call it even though I'm leaving, and I'll be yours for the weekend. 'Tis the damn season. I love this song so much. She's literally like, I'll take anything, right? I'll be yours for the weekend, even though it's gonna break my heart. I think that since they already either were in a relationship before or they were just aware of their feelings before, and the fact that she doesn't live in her hometown anymore, there are so many factors at play. So she feels like she can't just blurt out her feelings. Then we have repetition of the second chorus, and the outro of the song, the last lyric, is "It always leads to you and my hometown." So the protagonist here is aware that she's always going to be thinking about this ex and this hometown. It definitely holds something for her that she needs to figure out. I am viewing this right now as I'm talking about it through like the car transportation symbolism, specifically the mud on the truck tires, because that really suggests to me that there's like unfinished business here. Like she needs to figure something out that's important to her in the grander scheme of her life. And that's the end of the song. In conclusion, I think this song is, of course, about a hometown love, maybe a lost love. I do think that this is like a metaphorical fork in the road, two paths, just like the Robert Frost poem. And the protagonist needs to figure out if they're going to allow themselves to pine over this love or to try to move on. We don't have an answer, we don't have a resolution in this song, so we can only guess and assume what happens. Please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you agree with my interpretation? Do you have a completely different take? I always love reading your thoughts about these songs, so make sure to comment it down below. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and to subscribe if you haven't already. I always have to say that for the YouTube algorithm vibes, so please feel free to do that if you feel inclined to. If you're still listening to this, thank you so much. I wasn't planning on making a fully voiceover episode, but I've just been sick for a while, so this was the easiest thing for me to do. I hope this was okay. I tried to put in cute graphics for you guys, so I hope you enjoyed. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you later. Bye!